Saint Juanipro Serra spent the first years of his priestly ministry in Spain teaching at the seminary. But at age 35, he decided that God was calling him to do mission work in the New World. Mexico, and what is today California, was under the Spanish Empire, and he arrived in Mexico at age 35 and immediately began to set up missions that we know today have grown into great cities: San Diego, San Antonio, San Gabriel, St. Louis Obispo, San Francisco, San Juan Capistrano, Santa Clara. Simultaneous to his mission work was the military interventions of the Spanish army. So Father Juanipio fought the system where natives were regarded as barbarians and savages. For Juanipro Serra, colonial ideology was a blasphemy against God, who created all men and women and redeemed them by his most precious blood. He worked with and alongside the native peoples and spent his career defending their humanity and protesting crimes committed against them. He wrote that these peoples that he met were gentle and peaceful. He learned their languages. Records show that he baptized 6,000 indigenous peoples in his 35 years of work as a missionary. So the military government of Mexico at the time was negative toward the Native Americans. So when he was 60 years old, he traveled 2,000 miles from Carmel, California, to Mexico City to protest to the military governor of the injustices of the colonial system. And he had written a Bill of Rights for the Native peoples. This Bill of Rights for Native Americans became law. What a beautiful contribution to the history of America. Many years after the death of Juanipro Serra, the Spanish Empire ceded what is today California to be an independent state. And the first governor was Peter Burnett. He was an American politician originally from Missouri, and he was a slave owner. So when he came to California, he signed a law that was to enable the enslavement of Native Americans and called for their destruction. In a speech in 1851, he said, "A war of extermination will continue to be waged between the races until the Indian race becomes extinct." So what Juanipro Serra worked for the dignity of Native Americans, was put in great jeopardy. 9 years ago, Pope Francis canonized Juanipro Serra. That happened in Washington, D.C. And as the Holy Father Francis spoke, he said, "Today we remember one of those witnesses who testified to the joy of the gospel, Father Juanipro Serra. He was an embodiment of a church which goes forth, a church which sets out to bring everywhere the reconciling tenderness of God. He left his native land. He was excited about blazing trails, going forth to meet many people, learning and valuing their customs and ways of life. He learned how to bring to birth and nurture God's life in the faces of everyone he met. He made them his brothers and sisters. Juanipro sought to defend the dignity of Native Americans who protected from those who had mistreated and abused them. Mistreatment and wrongs which today still trouble us, especially because of the hurt which they caused in the lives of many people. Father Serra had a motto which inspired his life and work, not just a saying, but a reality. Keep moving forward. For him, this was the way to continue experiencing the joy of the gospel, to keep his heart from growing numb. He kept moving forward because the Lord was waiting. He kept going because his brothers and sisters were waiting. He kept going forward to the end of his life. Today, like him, we pray that we too will continue to go forward. The Archbishop of Los Angeles, Archbishop Gomez, has written about Juanipro Serra and prays for healing and reconciliation to end racial prejudice and a new awareness of what it means to all men and women as created as children of God. So Archbishop Gomez has asked that this day that we honor Saint Juanipro Serra be a day of prayer and fasting and charity to eradicate the legacy of racism in our land. Juanipro Serra suffered in his missionary work. At the very beginning, he had an infection in his leg, which hampered his ability to walk, but he still went forward. It's amazing how he traveled by foot, by donkey, to so many places, and especially when he was 60 years old, how he traveled from Carmel all 2,000 miles to Mexico City to protest against the injustices done to the Native Americans and produced the Bill of Rights to protect the Native Indians. So we honor Father Serra today, and we pray that we can, in our own way, be missionaries and evangelists. We can be missionary disciples to help bring the good news to people who we meet in our lives.